everybody, it's MTGOpener here, and today I have a very, I guess, exciting deck tag for you all. And I decided to make this video in English because this is my own deck, this is my own build, and I haven't seen anything like that before anywhere on YouTube. I mean, maybe there is something, I just haven't seen it. It's probable, and maybe this deck existed before I made it, but, well, I don't know about that, and because I still have people who watch me who are not Russian, I decided to make it for you, and maybe other people will like this deck, and, well, yeah, this is a mono-black control devotion deck, kind of, and before I decided to make it, I asked myself a question: what's the best way to remove a threat? Any threat. Absolutely any threat. A creature, enchantment, artifact, spell, non-creature, non-artifact, non-enchantment spell, I mean. It's to discard it. And now, with so many discard spells in Standard, and so many removal spells in Standard, I mean, now Ultimate Price is back, and it's just awesome, and Mind Rot is back, Duress is back. I just couldn't resist, and I decided to make this deck. I'm playing A-Track in Modern, and it's quite good. I won several tournaments with that. Yes, it's a tier 2 deck, but whatever, it wins. Believe it or not, but for me, like, the best matchup is Abzan mid-range. It's most popular deck, according to, like, MTG Top 8. One of the most popular decks and one of the strongest decks, and it's the best matchup because they're just too slow for me. I just discard them and kill them with Rack and Shrieking Affliction. This deck is not based on a card called Waste Not. It's not. I only play 2 of them, and I don't play Dark Deal. Many people noted that Dark Deal plus Waste Not is a great thing, but it's very inconsistent. In my opinion, Dark Deal without Waste Not is much worse than Mind Rot. Why? Because your opponent still draws the same amount of cards -1, he still can draw very good cards, and you can lose a very good hand. Without Waste Not, it is just bad. Mind Rot just discards 2 cards, so... Okay, I'm talking too much, I should start talking about the actual deck, whatever. So, in the deck I run 15 swamps, 15 basic swamps, 5 fetch lands. You can run 6, I guess, you can run none. Actually, I don't think that you can run none. But these are just black fetch lands, it doesn't matter which fetch lands you choose. I have these just because I have these now and I don't want to buy anything else. These are good for feeding Delph, these are good for thinning your deck, because the worst thing can happen to you is you just draw a land when you really need a removal spell. I have 3 Radiant Fountain because in this deck I have some cards like Thoughtseize, which hurt you, and just if you miss a removal and you take damage, you want to get the life back somehow. And that's one of the few ways you can get it right now. And I have 1 Nykthos because sometimes I can use it and get at least 4 mana from my devotion for 3. I mean, Nykthos plus 2 lands, so at least something. I have only 1 because of that, because it's not always good. In my creature base, I have 2 Risen Executioners. You will probably understand why they're very good in a second. 1 Sidisi in main board, 2 Grey Merchants, 3 Gurmag Anglers. These are not creatures. So, why this guy is so good? The first thing, 2 devotion. Second thing, all my creatures, including the ones from Waste Not, are zombies, and they're all getting +1/+1. Third thing, You can, for example, exploit him with Sidisi and get him back. You can destroy him with other creatures after you play Crux of Fate and not worry about losing him, because you always can get him back. This is a very good thing. All my creatures are zombies again, and he nearly all the time costs 4 from the grave because you have so few creatures, and you always can delve them with Angler or with I keep forgetting the name of the delve removal spell for 5 mana. Whatever, we'll see it later. So some people, when it was spoiled, they thought that it's really bad. It can block. Yes, it cannot block, but when your opponent doesn't have any creatures, do you care? No. You turn him sideways and you attack for 4. And probably you attack for 10 if you have Angler. Sidisi is a great creature. It's 2 devotion, it's a tutor, you can exploit this guy, you can find something else. The best thing is basically the play that I had recently on FNM. I put Sidisi, I exploit Reason Executioner, I find Grey Merchant, next turn, because I had Nykthos, I get a bunch of mana, I replay Reason Executioner, I play Grey Merchant, I kill my opponent. Yes, it's a long combo, but I mean, I killed my opponent just for playing this guy, and it was quite good. Basically all of them except Angler have 2 devotion, which sometimes can be relevant, but only sometimes. Then non-creature, non-removal, non-discard cards I have are 2 Waste Not and 1 Liliana. Waste Not are understandable because I have like 11 discard spells in my deck, and turn 2 Waste Not is really good. It's just, unless it's removed, it helps you every time you play a discard spell for the rest of the game. Sometimes it's good mid-game, but whatever. I only have 2 because it is not a Waste Not based deck. I don't play Dark Deal. Many people in my local game shop asked me if I play Dark Deal and how many Waste Nots I play, but I was like, no, this is not the deck you are thinking of. This is not a Waste Not deck. Liliana just adds to devotion. It's a powerful planeswalker at 6 loyalty because 5 plus 1 usually. Again, Liliana plus Waste Not is a great combo. Just the idea of this deck is that you just annoy your opponent so much. You just kill all the creatures they have and you discard all cards they have if you can. And you put them into the top deck mode, and usually you just always have a removal card in hand or a big creature in hand. All creatures in this deck are quite big. So Liliana just helps me to annoy my opponent, and it can tutor for stuff. It can tutor for Grey Merchant, and if you don't remember how Grey Merchant was good in the old standard with Ravnica, I mean, it's really good. You tutor for him, you put him, if you have Liliana or him, it's 4 already. If you have Waste Not, it's 5, and so on. Getting 5 life and your opponent loses 5 life creates a 10 life difference just with 1 card. It's quite good. In -8, if you're able to ultimate her, I guess you just won the game. So the removal and discard I have are 3 Thoughtseizes, 3 Despises, 2 Duresses, 3 Mind Rots, and this is removal. I'll talk about it later. So 3 Thoughtseizes because, well, yes, it is the best discard spell in standard, but it takes 2 life, and sometimes if you have 2 of them in your hand, it's not the best thing you can have, because life is still a resource which can become 0, and in some cases drawing a Thoughtseize is worse than drawing a Despise, because it takes your life, but it's still a great removal spell. So I run 3 of these because basically creatures are the biggest threats unless you play against control, but even their creatures are biggest threats. Most of the time any deck still kills you by creatures or planeswalkers if you play against control. Mono red can kill you with burn, that's why I have 2 Duresses, and well, this also takes burn. 3 Mind Rots I had 2 before, but then I changed it to 3, and having 2 of them is not a best thing. Having 1 is always great. With Waste Not, it's amazing. Your opponent has to make a difficult decision. You either get card advantage or you get mana to play a bigger thing, I mean, or you get a creature which can be a 3/3 if you have Risen Executioner. For free, with Mind Rot, and you get 2 of these 3. Your opponent has to decide, and I love cards which make your opponent to decide. Sometimes these decisions are quite hard. If he has 3 cards and he was going to make a great play next turn, well, now he won't. And you will get advantage if you have Waste Not. So this is my choice of discard. This is my choice of removal. I ran 4 ultimate prices, 4 downfalls, and 2 Murderous Cut, 2 Crux of Fate. So ultimate price is just great. It removes most of the threats. Now we don't see as many multicolored creatures as we did several months ago, and it's a 2 mana removal, which removes many things. This guy removes creatures as well, and planeswalkers, so it's good against control. He played his Elspeth well, now it's gone. This is, again, most of the time it's 1 mana removal, and it's so cool because Delph is so great in this deck. And I forgot to mention, I forgot to say that about Gurmag Anglers. Delph is so great in this deck, because you have so many instants and sorceries and fetch lands in your deck. Your graveyard fills very quickly, like seriously quickly. You can play Gurmag Angler on turn 3 if you want. Considering that on that turn 3, your opponent most likely won't have any creatures because you removed them and you already have removal, it's great. Murderous Cut is most of the time just destroy target creature for 1 mana, which is amazing. And I have 2 Crux of Fate. Sometimes you just don't have time to draw removal. I mean, don't draw removal at all, and your opponent gets many creatures, more creatures that you can block, or some creatures may probably kill you. That's why I need Crux of Fate. Yeah, there are some dragon decks. I saw some which also play non-dragon creatures, and there are some, for example, green, red, aggro deck can run Thunderbreak Regions and Stormbreath Dragons and Surax, and you have to decide which one. This is not Damnation, obviously. If they reprint Damnation in Origins, it's an obvious swap, but now Crux of Fate is the mass removal in black that we have. And last 2 cards I want to talk about are Read the Bones. In my opinion, it's the best draw spell in black right now. Okay, I was testing this deck with Damnable Pact, because late game, if you have creatures, if you have Devotion, you can cast Damnable Pact for, let's say, like 5 or 6 if you're lucky, and you can kill your opponent by targeting him with that card. But losing 3 life and drawing 3 cards for 5 mana is not the best thing at all. And drawing 2 cards for 4 mana and losing 2 life, again, you can run Silent Blood for doing these things. But even though there is so many removal and discard spells and you always need one, sometimes you can draw the wrong one. Or you can draw a creature when you really need removal. You can draw Risen Executioner when you have to block. And in these cases, card quality means much more than card advantage. Paying 1 more mana is not a big deal in this deck. Late game, even on turn 3. But scrying 2 before drawing 2 is amazing. During the game, you understand it much better than just by reading the card. Scrying 2, by scrying 2 you can get rid of 2 lands on top deck. Bad. even if you don't draw your removal in the worst scenario, you are still closer to drawing it, because you filtered these 2 lands from top to bottom. And I have 2 of them, because 3 would be, I think, too much, and 2 is, after playtesting, is the best amount of card draw spells in this deck. Okay, let's go to sideboard. Sideboard is another question. It's not completed, it's not 100%. For example, this Duress is already changed to Stain the Mind. It's a 5-mana sorcery with Convoke, which says that you find a card, you name a card and you find this card. You look for this card in your opponent's hand, grave and deck, and remove all of them. It's basically like Extirpate or the one for Phyrexian mana, I don't remember. It's 5 mana, that's true, but sometimes after your opponent played something like, I don't know, if he plays Control, he plays, let's say, Ojutai for 5 mana, and now your counterspell, now he can't cast counterspells, you can cast Stain the Mind and find his Elspeths and like worse threats like Ugins and just remove them. I run 1 Bile Blight in sideboard against aggressive decks, instead of Hero's Downfall, because it's 1 mana less. It has advantage sometimes because you can remove 2 creatures with 1 card. I run Necromancer Stockpile against Control. If you put it on turn 2, it's great. Your creatures can always be countered. It doesn't matter if you have Necromancer Stockpile. If you're not playing against Control deck which runs black, you get a 2/2 creature and draw a card for 2 mana. All creatures in this deck are zombies, so you will always get a 2/2 creature. And if you discard Reason Executioner, god damn it, you can just recast him whenever you want. I mean, obviously not as an instant, but he can get countered, he can be recast again. Doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter. Unless he's Oblivion Ringed. What was the card? Banishing Light. Okay. This is very good against control decks. Self-Inflicted Wound is great against white or green decks, but also against heroic. Its removal doesn't target a creature. And we all know how heroic decks play, they just protect it, and they don't care how many removal you have, there's a big chance that they protect it. But with this card, they cannot protect it. Plus, they lose to life. Okay, it's a sorcery, it's bad, but if it would be an instant, it would be too powerful, I think. Even if you're just playing against, like, I don't know, black-white devotion deck, and they have some big creatures and some smaller creatures, it's still a removal which removes a creature of their choice, but sometimes it doesn't matter when they only have one big Pelucrina sitting there. And they lose to life. It's a sorcery, doesn't matter. Most of the time these creatures don't have haste unless they play Sorak, and, well, if they don't play Sorak, if they just play a big creature, you just wait for your turn, cast this, they lose to life, and they suck that creature. I play Drum and Sorrow against aggro decks, but it's still slow. I admit it, it's still slow. Turn 3 and turn 3 mono red can seriously deal a lot of damage to you. But it's much better than Hero's Downfall, for example, against this deck. Virulent Plague, it's great against Jeskai tokens, it's great against mono red, it's great against control decks which play Elspeth. I play on the 2, maybe I have to play the 3rd copy, I don't know. But it's a great enchantment. It just turns this deck off. Basically, it removes their win conditions completely, which is great. For 3 mana, it's great. I have to Erebos, God of the Dead, against, again, green-white. It turns off their, what it's called? Why do I forget cards? Okay, enchantment which manifests, and whenever a creature is turned face up, you gain 1 life for each creature. Mastery of the Unseen, I'm very sorry. So yeah, it turns off Mastery of the Unseen, plus you can draw cards with him, plus you have Devotion, you have a huge 5/7 indestructible dude. Unless they play Erase, which usually they play like 2 of in their sideboard, you're just completely saved by this card. And then you just play all your removal. This is against like Abzan mid-range decks. It's a great big creature. It tutors you for the cards you want, and it's another question, by the way. I can remove it for something else, maybe for the third Virulent Plague, but now it's quite good. And third Crux of Fate against Black-White, for example, if they have a lot of creatures, or any deck which just able to get a lot of creatures, but which is not mono red, because mono red is just too fast, and when they have a lot of creatures, that means that you're dead. Any mid-range deck which is able to put quite many creatures and somehow dodge my removal, this is against these decks. So, okay, this video was very long, 21 minutes, but because it's my own deck, I just want to explain everything, how everything works, all the synergies. I tested it in I tested it online quite a lot for like 3 days. I was just playing like 5 games every day with 3 matches each, and I played on FNM. By the way, I had 2-2 on FNM, and both times I lost against mono red. And you probably understand why, because it's just too fast sometimes, and it's just too fast and I don't have time. I lost 0-2 and 1-2, and when I lost 1-2, I was actually able to just discard his creatures, and he didn't have any threats for a long time, so I killed him with Gurmag Angler. This deck is great against any mid-range deck. It just removes all the threats. With so much removal, doesn't matter what they play, it will get removed most likely. And then you just play your huge creatures. I mean, I consider 5/5 huge. I'm sorry if it's not what you wanted. So you can obviously write your suggestions in the comments. Write what you think about this deck. I would be very glad to hear your feedback. Also, subscribe to this channel. I know that this channel is in Russian, and most of you who are watching this video now are not Russian, because it's in English and there is a Russian version. So if you were Russian, you would obviously watch the Russian version. So yeah, subscribe to the channel. I upload pack openings quite often. Sometimes I have giveaways, so you can stay here for that. Well, if I make some better decks and come up with some interesting stuff, I will upload more deck decks here in English if this one will get enough views. So yeah, I hope you like it. I'm sorry for my accent if you don't like it, because, well, I'm not a native English speaking person, so sorry for that. And well, it was MTGOpener, and bye. See ya.